From Neural Newscast, this is Nerfed, where games, culture, and strategy intersect.
Nerfed, the end of discs. I'm Vanessa Calderon.
And I am Marcus Shaw. Today is August 7th, 2026, and the industry is moving fast, mostly toward a future where you don't actually own your games.
Speak for yourself, Marcus. I still have my shelf of shame to look at. But you're right. The writing isn't just on the wall anymore. It's literally stuck to the side of the box. DualShockers reported this week that Sony is now attaching explicit warning labels to newly shipped PlayStation 5 consoles. These stickers aren't just fine print. They state that from January 2028, newly released games on PlayStation will be digital only. Retailers will carry boxed download codes, but the era of the disc is officially terminal. This isn't just a slow transition, it is a hard deadline for the optical drive. We have been watching this coming since the launch of the digital-only editions, but seeing a best buy date on physical media really changes the landscape for collectors and rural players who rely on those discs.
It's the finality of it that's jarring, Vanessa. We've seen the industry trending this way. Sony says 80% of purchases in 2026 are already digital. But putting a death date on physical media feels like a gut punch to preservationists. Over 100,000 fans have already signed a petition, but Sony seems stoic. They're even working on a sealed liquid vaporization cooling system for the PS6, which is definitely going to be a digital-only beast. When you look at the engineering, removing that massive disk drive assembly gives them so much more internal real estate to play with. They can prioritize airflow and these new exotic cooling solutions, but it comes at the cost of your library being tethered to their servers forever. If that server goes dark in 15 years, your digital library goes with it.
I love that they're innovating on cooling while chilling our souls regarding game ownership. But if you want proof that physical media still has value, look at the Dubai collection. IGN reported yesterday that 3 first-print copies of Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow just sold for $2 million. That is the second largest video game transaction ever. We are seeing a massive divergence in the market. While the mass market is being pushed into these digital ecosystems, the top-tier physical artifacts are becoming the new fine art. People are realizing that as new physical games disappear, these older mint-condition cartridges are finite historical records that can never be replicated or patched out of existence.
$2 million for 3 Game Boy carts. The red and yellow versions were actually graded at a perfect PSA 10. It's wild that while Sony is trying to kill the disc, collectors are treating these physical artifacts like fine art. As the brokerage Nostalgics put it, these aren't just nostalgic, they're irreplaceable history. When you have a perfect 10, you have the platonic ideal of that game's physical form. It really highlights the anxiety people feel about the digital transition. If you bought those Pokemon games on a digital storefront today, you would own a license that could be revoked. But those cartridges in Dubai will exist as long as the plastic holds together. It's a tangible legacy that digital simply cannot offer.
Which is exactly why people are terrified of the 2028 cutoff. Once it's all digital, ownership becomes a very loose term. Speaking of losing control, let's talk about the massive shift over at EA. This has been the biggest corporate story in gaming for the last year, and the final numbers are finally in. Electronic Arts has officially closed its deal to go private. The Saudi Arabia Private Investment Fund, or PIF, now owns 93% of the company. As part of this $55 billion leveraged buyout, EA is now shouldering $20 billion in new debt. This is a complete transformation of the company's structure, moving away from the quarterly scrutiny of public shareholders and into the hands of a sovereign wealth fund.
$20 billion. That's not a typo. And when companies have that much debt, the first thing they look at is trimming the fat. Insider Gaming is reporting that EA employees are already bracing for layoffs. They've already cut 300 people this year at studios like Respawn and Full Circle, the studio behind that Skate reboot that everyone hated for its monetization. The concern here is that when you have that much debt to service, you stop taking creative risks. You focus on the sure things, the Maddens and the FIFAs, and you cut anything that isn't generating immediate, massive ROI. The culture at those studios is understandably tense right now, as they wait to see how the new owners want to balance the books.
It's a grim cycle, Marcus. CEO Andrew Wilson is promising to invest boldly, but he also took home a $37 million pay packet while his staff is looking over their shoulders. We also saw Refactor Games, the studio behind that Netflix FIFA World Cup game, lay off 85% of its staff this week after their debut was panned by critics. It feels like the industry is in this strange place where the executives are getting massive payouts while the actual developers are facing unprecedented instability. If a studio doesn't hit a home run on their first at-bat, they are essentially liquidated. There is no room for a mid-tier success anymore in this AAA climate.
If you're looking for a way to actually help, Necrosoft Games and the United Video Game Workers Union launched a hardship bundle on itch.io. It has over 100 games for $10, and all the money goes to laid-off devs. It already blew past its $100,000 goal and is aiming for double that now. It's a small bright spot in a pretty dark week for labor. Seeing the indie community rally like this is a reminder of the passion that still exists outside of the corporate boardrooms. These developers are the backbone of the industry, and while the giants are shifting around billions of dollars in debt, it's the $10 bundles that are actually keeping people afloat. On the hardware side, we finally have some concrete news for the Nintendo Switch 2. Mojang announced that Minecraft will launch on the new console October 27th. It'll feature a vibrant visuals mode by default, which means actual lighting and shadows for our blocky world. We are finally moving past the era of flat textures and static lighting on Nintendo's handheld. The rumors suggest the Switch 2 is using a custom NVIDIA chip that supports DLSS, which would explain how they're getting this level of fidelity out of a portable device. It's the jump in visual quality we have been waiting for since the original Switch started showing its age 4 years ago. Finally, the Switch won't sound like a jet engine trying to render a sunset. There's also an upgrade path for Switch 1 owners, though it sounds like it might not be free. And Vanessa, did you see the Diablo 4 leak? Bilbo Kuhn is reporting that Blizzard is dropping the game on Switch 2 in mid-September for $70. This is another one of those flagship titles intended to show off the power of the new hardware. The fact that it's launching so close to the rumored console reveal date basically confirms that Nintendo is going for a very aggressive fall launch schedule. They want the third-party support to be there on day one.
I saw that. The funniest part, the physical edition for Diablo 4 is reportedly just a code in a box. No card, not even a key card, just an empty plastic shell. It's like Blizzard and Sony are sharing the same playbook this week. If you're looking for more Square Enix news, FF7 Revelation director Naoki Hamaguchi confirmed that the upcoming finale will tie in every spin-off, Advent Children, Dirge of Cerberus, Crisis Core, into one overarching universe. He's not saying how it connects, but he's making sure fans know they're not ignoring the lore. It is an ambitious promise, especially considering how divisive some of those spin-offs were. Tying all that together without making it a confusing mess is going to be the ultimate test for that development team.
I'm sure the fan theorists are having a very calm, reasonable week with that news. Now, for something a bit more serious. A Rust player named Axel Melendez is suing the Tucson police for $176 million. He was paralyzed from the waist down back in April after being swatted by another player. This case is a horrifying look at how dangerous online disputes have become. We have talked about swatting before, but this is one of the most documented failures of law enforcement protocol we have seen yet. The legal system is finally being forced to reckon with the reality of how gaming culture can be weaponized by bad actors.
This is a nightmare scenario, Marcus. Axel actually called 911 2 days before the incident to warn them he was being targeted by a swatter. The police told him nothing was going to happen. Then 2 days later, they smashed his bedroom window with a shovel. He thought he was being robbed, grabbed a legal gun to protect his mom, and they shot him in the spine. It is devastating because he did everything right. He tried to preempt the threat, he informed the authorities, and they still treated him like the aggressor. The $176 million figure in the lawsuit reflects the total loss of his quality of life and the negligence involved in ignoring his specific warnings.
It's terrifying. He was wearing noise-canceling headphones playing games and didn't hear them outside. The lawsuit calls it a shoot-from-the-hip mentality, and honestly, it's hard to disagree. It highlights just how dangerous these online gaming disputes have become. Critical Hit is even reporting that gaming economies are now sitting on federal rails roads. Basically, if you scam someone out of a skin or pull a shady trade across state lines, it's now being treated as federal wire fraud. The Department of Justice is no longer viewing in-game items as play money. If they have a real-world cash value on a secondary market, the feds are treating it like any other financial transaction. The days of the Wild West in skin trading are coming to an end.
The government is finally reading the DMs, folks. Keep your receipts. And speaking of things that shouldn't be read, a solo dev at Club Kofta Studio found out that Google's AI, Gemini, was leaking unannounced characters from his game, Operation Octo. A player asked the AI silly questions, and it spit out the name Vantage Tripod, a character that only existed in a private Google Doc. This is a massive security breach for any developer who relies on cloud-based collaboration tools. If the AI models are being trained on what we assume are private internal workspaces, then nothing is truly safe from public disclosure. It's a total breakdown of trust between the platform and the creator.
Google claims they don't scan private workspace content to train their models, but this dev is adamant the name wasn't anywhere else. It's a creepy reminder that if it's in the cloud, it might not be as private as the EULA says. Vanessa, I think I'm going to go buy a typewriter and a physical copy of a game while I still can. I might even start writing my design docs in a physical notebook. We are living in a time where the digital convenience we have taken for granted is starting to show some really significant downsides, from ownership loss to privacy leaks. It makes you want to go back to the days of local play and offline storage.
Smart move. Before we go, a quick reminder. Gears of War E-Day starts its open beta for Game Pass Ultimate members today, August 7th, featuring that new Horde Siege mode. This is the first real look at the Unreal Engine 5 implementation for the franchise, and the hype is through the roof. If you're a subscriber, you can also jump into Beast of Reincarnation from Game Freak starting this week. It is a busy time to be a gamer, provided you have the bandwidth for all these downloads.
That's it for this week. I'm Marcus Shaw. Find more at Nerfed.ai. Thanks for listening to Nerfed. Neural Newscast is AI-assisted, human-reviewed. View our AI transparency policy at neuralnewscast.com.
This has been Nerfed on Neural Newscast, where games, culture, and strategy intersect.